everyone, it's Alyssa and we are back in my kitchen for our first edition of Spice Up Your Kitchen for 2023, and this month we have sage. I really like sage. It's something that I started incorporating into my cooking fairly recently actually, and I always try to have some. This is not really fresh anymore, it's actually kind of dried, and then there's the ground sage as well, so I always try to have it around. We have two recipes in the pamphlet this month. Today I'm going to make the leek soup. It's not potato leek soup, it actually has cauliflower in it instead. And I've never made a leek soup before, but from knowing what sage tastes like, I can understand why sage would taste really good in that application. And it is my favorite season. It's Dutch oven season. I'm gonna make this soup. It's gonna simmer for a little while and then we'll blend it all up. But so we have sage. So sage is, it's really earthy. There are some little hints of eucalyptus and mint, maybe even a little bit of citrus. A really popular application of sage is in a brown butter sauce. So the second recipe that you have in your pamphlet is a brown butter sage sauce with chicken. Brown butter and sage, what a great combination. You should definitely try it. Another way that I like to use the brown butter and sage is with sweet potatoes. So you can fry up your sage in the brown butter and you can just pour that on top of a baked sweet potato. You can do, if you can get like a sweet potato gnocchi, oh my goodness, so good. Or like a ravioli, it's good on a pasta too. So brown butter and sage, what a wonderful, beautiful combination because it gets really nutty, the brown butter, and the sage is really earthy. So it's a nice combination. Sage also is great in applications like a stuffing, a sausage. I actually made, last week, I made a pork and chicken apple meatball that had sage in it, and it was a great combination. It was delicious. So that's sage, that's what we're gonna try this month. So we're gonna go over to the stove, to my nice Dutch oven for soup season, and we're gonna make our soup. So come follow me. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to handle the leeks. So I have some olive oil. All right, here we go. I have some olive oil, about 2 tablespoons. And we're gonna start with the leeks and get those going. I'm gonna turn my heat on. And get my leeks in there. So these have been washed. I've cut off the ends. It's mostly the white part, a little bit of the green part. So you do want to make sure that you cut them and rinse them well because they can get like sandy, I guess, in there. And then I slice them up thin so that they would cook nicely. So we're gonna let these go for a little bit, just start to get some color, start to cook down. The next thing that I have that's already prepped is onions and garlic. And those will go in second. Remember, we don't wanna put the garlic in first because the garlic will burn and that will be tragic. We just want the garlic to get rid of that raw flavor and instead have the beautiful sweet garlic flavor. So we'll have to watch that carefully, but once we get there, we'll see. So I'm gonna let this go for a little bit and let this start to cook down, and then we'll add the rest. It's been a couple of minutes. This is fairly fragrant and it's mostly pretty tender here. Don't worry about the size of your slices. I do like in the recipe it says to slice it thinly because that does help it saute up faster. But all of this is going to get blended. If I haven't mentioned that yet, if you haven't looked at the recipe yet, this is all getting blended. I'm going to use an immersion blender right in the pot. You could also scoop it out and do it in batches in a blender or food processor. Okay, so now I'm gonna add the onions and the garlic. Okay, so same as before. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm using onions that were pre-cut and frozen, so they're not going to take that long to get tender, but I do want to get a little bit of color maybe, because, you know, when your food starts to get a little brown, that means it tastes better. And, you know, like I said before, I want to make sure we get rid of that overly pungent, sharp, unpleasant raw garlic flavor. I do want to make sure that cooks and gets nice. So I'm going to let this go for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to make sure to stir it frequently and make sure that my garlic does not burn. There's still plenty of oil in here. We are all good. I'm just going to watch it, and it already smells really fragrant and delicious in here. So I'm going to let this go for just a little bit. Okay, so they are sweating, they are cooking down, you can tell. I'm getting some brown bits, and I'm making sure every time I stir this, just to spread them out again. So I don't want them to steam within each other. I do want to kind of flatten out so they get that connection to the surface, and that's how we get a little bit of browning and some extra bit of flavor from the browning that really will enhance our cooking. Okay, everything here is nice and tender. There are some brown spots. It's great. So we're going to go ahead and add in the cauliflower. I have 2 cups of chicken stock, and then we're going to do our seasoning, which for this is really simple. It's just salt, pepper, and sage. So let me go get all of that. Cauliflower, the recipe says to use 1 head of cauliflower. I went and I got 1 head of cauliflower, and it ended up being the world's smallest head of cauliflower. It was all leaves and none of this. It's fine. Small serving of soup. It's fine. I'm going to put that in there. Salt. Salt is flavor. Don't be afraid of salt. And pepper, I love fresh ground pepper because it's more fragrant and flavorful. And sage. Because we are using the immersion blender later, you can use your whole leaves of sage. You can also use the ground sage, so I'm going to use a combination of both. All right, so I have 2 cups of chicken stock, chicken broth, what have you. If you want this to be vegan, you can use a really nice vegetable stock. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. And I'm going to make sure to scrape up any little brown bits that stuck to the bottom of the pan. That's where all the flavor is. That's the good stuff. I'm going to raise my heat up and bring this to a boil. Okay, I'm giving everything a good stir, making sure my flavors are all around. It smells great. And just from the smell in the pot, I've got all of those aromatics, the leeks and the onions and garlic, and I can smell almost the piney minty version of the sage. It's a little less earthy smelling, the steam that's coming up, and it's more of that like eucalyptus pine kind of thing that sage can have. It's really nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'm not going to film it because it's boring. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. Once I have the boil going, it's going to go down to a simmer, and I'm going to cover it with the lid and let it cook. I'm not sure how long it will take until my cauliflower is super, super tender. Once that happens, I'll come back and we'll blend it up together and finish this off, and we're gonna have a delicious, very warming soup to have. Okay, so this boiled and the cauliflower basically just totally fell apart when I stirred it. I let it cool down a little bit, and now it's time to add your milk of choice. You can use almond milk, regular milk. I'm using hemp milk, whatever it is that you want. Again, this recipe could easily be vegan or fit any kind of dietary need that you have. So I'm just gonna pour this in. And then I have my immersion blender, and I'm just going to blend into my desired soup consistency. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to get this into a bowl and reheat it a little bit. And then that's it. We'll taste it together. Okay, so I have drizzled this with a little bit more of fresh extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of, as the serving suggestions say in the recipe, a little bit of sour cream. That brightness and tartness, that kind of acidity of the sour cream helps to cut through some of the richness, and this is like a very woodsy, earthy flavored soup, so it kind of cuts through and gives you a little bit of freshness. And then the recipe, I did not do this, but the recipe also said that you could top it with fried sage leaves. So what I did not do, I just didn't feel like doing it, but this would be lovely. You can fry up some sage leaves just in some oil on the stove. You fry them up, they get crispy, and it enhances all of their flavors, and it has a nice texture to it, so you could top that right there. I didn't feel like doing that. So this is, you finish it up exactly how you want to do. So I'm just gonna mix together some of that sour cream and that fresh extra virgin olive oil, and we're gonna give this a taste. This is so good. Oh, I love the sour cream with this because it is very, very earthy. It's very woodsy. It's delicious. I can taste the garlic. I taste the leek. The cauliflower doesn't really have much flavor. It does everything. Cauliflower does everything. So it's a great vehicle for the soup for all of these flavors. It's really rich and creamy. But I didn't actually use any dairy in mine, so that's nice. And the sage and the fresh ground pepper are so pronounced. Yes, this is a very comforting soup, very earthy. I can have a little bit on the back of my tongue. It's almost like a little spark from that kind of eucalyptus, astringent flavor of the sage that's kind of on the back burner. It's very good. I definitely recommend using the sour cream and top it with a little drizzle of olive oil because it really enhances all of your flavors. This is lovely. This is great. I'm just gonna go ahead and sit down and enjoy this. It's been kind of like damp and sad outside, and so a bowl of really warm and comforting soup is the perfect recipe for today. So if you give it a try, let me know. I hope you enjoy your Sage kits this month, and I will see you next month for more Spice Up Your Kitchen.